Hello, and welcome to the Irish Gauge podcast. We're all in the building, lads.
We are. Hello, everybody.
We're here.
We're here.
Shade.
We're in
Hope
the shade.
everybody had a good week so far.
Everybody's had a good week, I think, Dev.
Good evening indeed, yes. How are you all getting on?
Good, lad, aye.
Mm.
So we're recording this one the night after we started putting our material out. So the night after our launch, it's been a bit of a mental 24 hours, lads. In all honesty,
It's been a bit mad, like,
It's
hasn't
been
it?
fun.
It's been a lot harder to launch than I thought it would.
there's
My poor wee head was wrecked.
Big Kirby was slogging away last night to the holders to get them uploaded onto multiple sites and things.
So
YouTube
far,
and
we've got two.
that. we've got Podbean and we've got YouTube. So
We're waiting on iHeartRadio to accept our beautiful material.
yeah, Spotify as well, and then we'll try and get Apple as well. But it's been a bit of a crazy one. Like we sort of put it out, and I was sort of thinking myself, like maybe with just the lads we run around with, and maybe a few others would maybe have 50 listens or downloads or something. But on our Podbean app, or on our Podbean account, sorry, probably, we've had close to 200 downloads in 24 hours, which is a bit mental. Like
It is.
Yeah.
It's mad. I didn't get much sleep last night. Like.
we've sort of Bestie's lost the plot
Yeah.
already.
Your head's away.
I can't handle it. Like. I just like to say thanks to everybody that has
Yeah,
listened.
thanks for your
cheers,
support,
aye. A
and,
few of
you
the
know,
lads, Big Kyle, Puffer, Eddie, and all have been sharing it all day. And
Some lads overseas as well, but Clive over in England, he's
Eddie's in
been-
Australia.
Eddie's in Australia.
So keep the support up, and
Aye.
like us on all platforms. It really does help the channel.
Aye.
So like we're
If you listen to us on the Podbean, you can flick over and subscribe in the YouTube page and all too. We're going to try and get it out in more. We know Podbean's maybe not the primary one that most people will listen to. I think Spotify and Apple are the two biggest.
Podbean's a good app too.
Podbean's good.
It's done all right by us
It's done
today.
fairly well by us.
Uh-huh.
We're still working out what the hell we're doing with RSS feeds. And
I've fairly figured a lot of it out, but
we're working away, but it's been good so far. We're very appreciative of everybody that sort of shared everything for us and things like that. Like there's people
Serious buzz today.
you looking at on that mixer. Like, what's your problem?
not a thing.
Um,
Just checking we're all good. I was just checking. Was that
we're
wrong?
totally fine.
Alright.
Aye.
Well, it wasn't alright before we started because you clearly didn't know what you were doing until I changed them two sockets, right?
Aye, we're
we've had a few technical issues today.
we're still learning what we're
We're
at.
all just a little bit stressed.
Bestie's had very little sleep. I don't know, your sleeping pattern's crap anyway, Kermit. And I don't know, it's been a weird 24
And
hours.
sleeps for the week, boys.
Um,
Vince McMahon gets 4 hours a night, and he's doing alright for himself.
ready to get on their steroids, but no, it's been a crazy 20. I didn't expect close to 200 downloads. Like I never thought of it. So there's a lot of people listening that are people that we didn't expect to be listening. There's people following that I don't know who they are. Some things like that. So we're very appreciative. But this will come out at some stage. But this is the night after we launched. So we just wanted to sort of take a couple of minutes and say thanks to everybody so far that's subscribed or downloaded or whatever the hell you're doing. It's all good.
It's a good show and a support, like, and it's still streaming through there at the minute on all
Yeah.
the phones, but all the messages.
There's like at 180 something the last time I looked there.
Aye.
Which has been quite frequently. We're sort of I've had to stop myself a couple of times today. It's been a bit mental. I think everybody's going through the same thing.
Yeah. I wasn't able to focus at work at all.
But so we're in the night. It's all four of us in the building: Tom, Crippy, myself, Bestie. We're gonna be recording one of our nerdy type thing
We're taking
podcasts.
a different approach today.
Taking a wee different approach. We'd sort of talked about bringing music into the podcast somewhere or another.
We had,
We've all got sort of varying tastes in music and things like that. But we thought, music's a completely different genre. It's not that nerdy. So what way can we get it into a segment where, we can talk about it for an hour or so? So we decided to each sort of not pitch, but sort of come up with an idea of a biopic that, the sort of Queen's been done recently.
Elton
John,
Beatles,
Motley
Crue,
The Dirt was really good.
and then even the likes of Straight Outta Compton,
Straight
and
Outta Compton, yeah.
the 50 Cent movie,
Get Richard A. Train.
Get Richard A. Train, yeah, and
So
8
we're-
Mile. There's
yeah.
been a lot of them.
There's
They're
been a lot of good
popular.
movies.
a
aye.
lot of good films there.
And so we've decided to take one each, one that hasn't been done yet, and take it from there. So does anybody want to go first?
I usually go first, so I'm not going to go first this time.
You're throwing us off.
Oh,
That's not the night. That's not the night.
that's not the night to start that. Well, I suppose I'll jump in first then.
Get this one out of the way. This should be good.
So I've decided to take a look at Rage Against the Machine.
Get nice and political early doors, Dave.
There would definitely be a very political band. They're very, very left wing.
Yeah.
But So, quick breakdown. Their singer is Zach De La Roja. Sorry for mispronouncing that terribly. Their
We're leaving that
guitarist
in.
is Tom Morello. Their bassist is Tim Comerford. And their drummer is Brad Wilk. They're a band now that I've liked for quite a few years, and I like quite a lot of their songs, so I thought there would be an interesting one to go into. The actual movie itself, the biopic, would have a real good soundtrack to it. They're a popular band. They won a Grammy for Best Metal Performance in 1987 and won an award for the Best Hard Rock Performance in 2001.
Do you remember
The Christmas number
the
one.
Christmas number
Yeah.
one?
Oh,
I
yes,
remember that.
yes,
That was class.
That was cool.
I think that was the very first really.
Were we still in school
Rage.
when that went
Oh
on?
yeah, we were still in school. That came up as a question on like, is it like Q Radio or something?
Yeah.
Anybody that's listening outside of here won't know what Q Radio is, but it came up on like Q Radio. It was like what year? I think it was like 2007 or something. So it was that far back? Like,
Oh, aye, yeah,
No.
they just wanted to.
basically anybody outside the UK that doesn't know the X Factor kind of took over as
Took over from like a sort of an American Idol style.
American Idol
Pop
style
Idol
thing,
style.
Well, actually, they do X Factor and stuff in them countries now too, do they
I
not?
believe so. I believe it's
It's
sort
like
of
The Voice and
worldwide
all
now.
that, but they
Yeah.
took over for a number of years. Their show would be in the build up to Christmas, and then that
And they'd
Christmas
always
number
have the
one.
Christmas number one every single year.
Yeah,
And
so-
then Rage Against the Machine sort of
A
the
few people
campaign.
decided
So
to a few people decided to take over and put Rage Against the Machine, and they got so in the UK and whatever year that was, Rage Against the Machine.
Killing in the name of.
Killing in the name of was the Christmas number one for a year.
It was
Fantastic choice.
It was a really big moment, especially for the likes of me and Bestie and yourself, sir, because we all sort of like the heavier music. Well,
Yeah.
actually, you as well.
I like it somewhat.
Yeah.
I think
That was a big moment.
it was really good. 'Cause, like,
Do you remember like on Christmas nights out when you were out getting roped off and all?
It was
It'd be
coming
playing.
on.
It was coming on in Clubland.
it'd be playing, aye.
But Rage Against the Machine were formed in 1981 in LA. But they're basically they use their music to spread ideas. They used a lot of their songs to criticize U.S. domestic and foreign policy. They were involved in quite a lot of like activism, and they were big activists. And I think the biopic would probably be sort of centralized around that. It would be a more sort of gritty one than a lot of the music biopics that are out there. Sorry?
No, I'm not gonna hit this, sir.
I know. Well, they've been involved in quite a few sort of controversial things, which would make for an interesting movie. They supported I'm going to pronounce this terribly, the Zapatista Army of National Liberation. They took many trips to Mexico to aid their efforts. They donated 30,000 to their efforts. They were basically a guerrilla army that were fighting for the poor indigenous communities in the south of Mexico. And, you know, they released songs, did concerts and all in support of them. That would be quite an interesting one.
Is that what the song Guerrilla Radio was all about?
It's a belter.
It's class.
It's great, isn't it?
We're not gonna have any one-upmanship on soundtracks here tonight, lads. Like,
No,
consider
it's
it's a
all-
biopic.
It's all
Is it biopic or biopic?
It's biopic.
Fair enough. Okay.
I think so.
They also had a controversial moment on Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live was hosting the Republican ex-presidential candidate, Stephen Forbes. He was a guest on the show. They hung 2 USA flags upside down over their amps for their performance. Of course, stagehands quickly come in and remove the flags, and then they were quickly cut off. You know, they were supposed to play a few songs, and they ended up getting sort of one song in. I think it was Balls on Parade.
Yeah.
And then they ended up getting sort of cut off very quick. But it was basically sort of against the sort of two-party representatives from like the privileged classes. You know, the way America is a two-party country.
system,
You know,
pretty
and
much. Aye.
just basically sort of stating how undemocratic it was. It was to prove that. Sorry,
Have you lost your train of thought?
I've
Dave?
lost my notes. But I was basically against the lack of democracy in America. It was to prove that there was no freedom of expression either, because, you know, they knew that they would be taken off. They knew that the flags would be taken down. So they decided, you know, we're going to do this to show that
It'll be done. It'll
it'll
be done.
like the censorship. And strangely enough, a few of the crew members from SNL agreed with their actions and said that they were ashamed that their performance was censored. And like that's what this came to, because they were afraid of sort of sponsors and things taking, you know, like losing sponsors and
SNL even nowadays is quite like it's quite on the left. It's quite on the left too, though. It's like they've got a lot of sort of left wing views and stuff like that there, which is a wee bit crazy. But then Rage are a bit far left, like.
Rage are very far left. They have a lot of crazy ideals. There was once a quote from them. It was basically saying that the ultimate freedom is to not work for anyone, and the ultimate freedom is the freedom of choice to like starve, basically. Till basically live homeless, and that's the ultimate freedom.
There's a bit too far left, in my opinion.
Their ideals are a bit crazy, but that's why it'll make a very interesting biopic.
Oh, definitely.
There was another one they were sort of involved in where they were shooting the video for Sleep Now in the Fire. They shot it across the road from the New York Stock Exchange, and they like put the word out and get a load of their fans down to watch them play, basically.
Heavily into activism and all, yeah.
Oh, they really were, like. But after they finished filming the video, they decided to lead all their fans over to the New York Stock Exchange, and they went in and basically started wrecking the place. And whatever, the stock exchange ended up being closed down for a day, and they said it was a great triumph that they ruined capitalism for a day.
They had that thing like at the minute, or I don't know if it's still going, but it was that Occupy Wall Street carry on in the States as well. So that's kind of maybe been a sort of takeover or not like a legacy maybe thing.
They have that Occupy Machine come back on tour now in 2020, and that's what the world leads. They're coming back, yeah. And that's what the world leads.
What's their opinions? Opinions on Trump gonna be?
They're gonna. I hope they release new music and they release a song about Donald
Trump. I heard.
See,
I'm not that versed in them, like, but I heard they've got a band, and it's the lead singer fella's not in the band, but the lead guitarist is in it, but they're called like Rage something.
Are you on about? So after they done Rage, they joined up with Chris Cornell and they did Audioslave. Yeah. And then after Audioslave, they've done Prophets of Rage.
Prophets of Rage. That's the one I was thinking of.
They're also like, as musicians, they're absolutely brilliant. Like,
we've talked about this before too. Hopefully, we'll get a wee bit of different bits of different material. But like, sort of in the 90s when there was that kind of like rock crossover, some of the stuff was class. Like, you had Jay-Z and
Linkin Park,
doing like a crossover, but there was that sort of like rock crossover where you had like rock bands.
Linkin Park were very rap rock anyway. Like, sort of their more.
You know what else am I thinking of? Like,
well, Anthrax probably started that trend. Like they teamed up with Public Enemy because the guitarist got Ian. He was a big fan, so he wanted to blend the two. He thought, what would happen if metal and rap collided and just made a song
it's nearly like politics in a wee bit of a way, because with like rap's maybe over on one side and like rock like maybe heavy metal and stuff.
Rap's also very political, like
Oh yeah, there's it's all sort of class stuff too.
That's it. Like it's.
But there's kind of like nearly like a full circle thing. Like a lot of like real sort of underground rappers, like are big into like heavy metal and stuff. Like I showed you this before Christmas, Tom, about Denzel Curry and the cover of Rage Against the Machine's Balls on Parade, and it's maybe nearly better than the original, and it's absolutely insane. He's a rapper, obviously, but he's got like.
I don't think I've ever heard it, but I'd love to give it a wee listen.
Check it out.
I do enjoy Balls on Parade, like it's an absolute.
Because it's more
classic.
Your vibes, Tom. It is quite like strong, really like screaming sort of vocals, but it's not like. For me, anyway, I sort of think when it goes a wee bit over the top of the scream, and it loses me a touch. Like I like a good bit of like. Sort of classic rock and stuff like that there, and a wee bit of like classic metal and stuff. But he properly like shouts at it, but it's really good, like
But then for the likes of Rage Against the Machine, when you're all your songs of real political meanings, it's speaking to a generation in the 90s and 2000s which were full of anger and
so
distrust
much
for the system and angst, basically.
Sure, even if you look at
angsty as all hell.
even if you look at that Slipknot self-titled album, like it's very heavy, like, but. A lot of them songs Corey's rapping on, like Spit It Out, he's rapping, like, and like even
it nearly comes. What was that other one? Was it Hollywood? Hollywood Undead. They were quite like heavy a wee bit and stuff, but they were all rappers and stuff as well. There is a crossover.
Even Rage Against the Machine, like that, you could sort of argue a lot of the songs are they do a bit of rapping.
Oh, your main man actually is more of a rapper than anything, like the way he goes, like
the way he sort of
his voice isn't heavy or anything. Like it's quite he sort of flows in and out with his lyrics and stuff.
Yeah, he does. But they were involved in plenty of different controversies. Here's another one in the 2000 Democratic National Convention. they played a free concert across the road from it. Because of course they did.
Of course they did.
It was basically to protest the fact that it was a two-party country, and that there was no democracy in the country, and it was just one rich man or the other rich man was going to run the country.
Yeah. You're killing our American market there, cheers.
Here, I am telling the story of these people. I'm not saying I agree or disagree.
We know what you are.
I'm not agreeing nor disagreeing. I am just stating that it would be an interesting movie.
Yeah.
So, but they ended up, there was 2,000 police with riot gear, and there was helicopters, motorcycles, police vehicles, and all turned up to protect the convention. During the concert, the lead singer, I'm going to butcher this again, Tom, say it for me.
Zach De La Rocha.
Just call him Zach.
The lead singer, Zach. He basically got on stage and shouted out, he was like, brothers and sisters, our democracy has been hijacked, and we have the right to oppose these mother effers.
Cheers for yourself, Adam. Appreciate that.
So it ended up during the concert, the electric was turned off to the concert. The whole concert was shut down, and this obviously caused a riot to ensue. People started throwing stones and bottles and concrete and everything at the police. And then the police ended up coming in and using tear gas and rubber bullets on the people.
Jesus.
And it just turned into a full riot, like right outside the convention.
Yeah.
And like, tell me this won't make an interesting movie. Like.
Oh, that will,
And then the same sort of thing happened in 2008 during the Republican convention. They tried to play a free concert across the road from the Republican convention, and they had a permit to play.
Yeah.
But the police ended up, the police arrived and they blocked off the stage and wouldn't let them up onto the stage and just refused. They were like, no, this isn't taking place.
I think you need like permits and stuff in the States, but if you get a permit, you're allowed to.
Oh, they had a permit, and then
that's just pure stage.
But one of the quotes was like, if this happened during the Beijing Olympics, where like a band who was sort of a bit political weren't allowed to play, even though they were sort of, they had the right to play, but they weren't allowed to play. The world would be up in arms about this, but he was like, when it happens in America, and no one bats an eyelid. But so they went into the middle of the crowd with the big bullhorns, and they just started playing anyway.
Fair enough.
And they were passing the bullhorns around each other and singing, and the whole crowd was singing along with them, and just passing them back and forth. Then they ended up, it didn't last too long, obviously. And then on day 2 of the convention, they played a concert in the Target Center. But at the start, they come out on the stage and they stood on the stage in absolute silence, wearing an orange prisoner suit, like the Guantanamo Bay prisoner suit, with like hoods over their heads, and they just stood there for the first few minutes of the concert in absolute silence, just as a sort of statement of censorship and things like that there, which was pretty cool. Not that I agree with any of this, stating that again. But at the end of the concert, another riot ensued. It spilled out onto the streets, and 102 people ended up arrested from it. And the same thing was happening, just police versus people, and they were just trying to get as close to the Republican convention, just to basically protest it and protest everything that's wrong with the country, and it all spilled out into violence again with 102 arrested. So they've been involved in some interesting situations.
They have, surely.
Also in the Iraq War, they stated on Fox News that, and in like most of their concerts, they were shouting this out on stage, that basically Bush and Tony Blair should have been brought to trial and hung or else shot, because they're no better than the Nazis.
Right.
We're gonna get shut down.
I no longer nor agree nor disagree with any of the views of Rage Against the Machine.
It'll be a damn good film, but.
Oh, that's what my point is.
Yeah.
Like, it is just a complete look at society and a look at,
It's a wee bit more than just a biopic. Like, it's a bit more than just the sort of, we had nothing, we got somewhere, we made music, we made money, we fell apart, and then
especially
it comes back together.
It's very topical with them sort of coming back together now. They also started a campaign against torture in 2009. Basically, they wanted to get Guantanamo Bay shut down, and they wanted the military to release all records on torturing. There was also, I'm going to butcher this name as well. I might even try and, I'll say the name. So they pleaded for the release of a Black Panther that was arrested. He was arrested for killing a police officer.
Right.
And his name was Mumia Abu Jamal. Thinking it all
well done, Dave. Well done.
But he was serving life in prison. And they basically wrote Voice of the Voiceless. Have you heard that?
No.
They wrote Voice for the Voiceless for him. It's a song like a sort of about him. and they ended up speaking to the United Nations Commission of Human Rights on his behalf to try and get him released. Obviously, as of yet, nothing's came from it, but they're still heavily, they're heavily involved in that there.
Yeah.
So, they've been involved in so much sort of different activists and activism things. They're the sort of main ones that have put down, but it would be a very interesting movie to make.
Just more than just the sort of, struggle story, followed by getting the record deal, followed by, it falling apart for them, followed by the redemption bit at the end of most biopics.
But you could even put a bit of comedy in it, because, there's a funny sort of story that Tim Comerford, he ended up seeing God when he took a lot of mushrooms and went on a log ride at Disneyland.
That has to be in it, I think.
You could, and then they're, obviously involved in metal parties and things as well. They were full of angst as well, so it would be an interesting story, but it would be, you could have a look at sort of the political landscape during the 90s and 2000s and sort of their sort of impact on it, and they did a lot more than that's just sort of a few of the key ones I put down.
There's a lot to cover there, but I mean, you could go a couple of different routes with a film.
Because a lot of films nowadays, if you look at the Joker movie, it's been heavily praised, but it's it's almost like a look at sort of society and
a look at yourself and
a look at yourself and a look at society and things like that. And there's a lot of movies coming out like that now, and I think it's sort of the perfect time where people would accept the movie like that, about Rage Against the Machines and all their crazy ideas. You don't have to agree with them, but you can watch the movie and you can just enjoy the craziness from it, And it would have a killer soundtrack because Rage
is pretty damn good,
and it would be sort of a look at sort of society and a look at the political landscape in the United States, and it would be a look.
It'd be an interesting one to come out with what everything that's happening in the States at the minute too.
Coming out now would be an interesting time for it, especially with them coming back. Especially with them coming back together and things like.
I didn't know they were coming back, and they're coming back in an election year. They're going to do something nuts.
They're going to write a song, and it's just going to be absolutely mental. And
There's actually in the bit, I don't know if you should say it or not, but in the bit of the Denzel Curry rap, he sort of has a dig at Donald Trump, and there's a bit where they sort of do like a guitar solo in the Rage again, or Bulls on Parade Rage song, and he just spits his own lyrics in that bit. He's a rapper, but
pretty freestyle.
He just freestyles. It's really good. But who's up? That you, Dev?
That's me basically done. I just think it would be a very interesting movie to make, and as I said before, I don't agree with everything that Rage Against the Machine stand for. But I mean, just as terms of a band that would make a sort of really different movie, a crazy movie, and a movie that a lot of people would go and see.
Yeah,
a movie that it would get a lot of headlines for the right down wrong reasons.
There'd be so much coverage for that. That's a good shout, Dev. To be fair,
it would be an interesting movie.
That's a good pitch. You stepping up now, Vesty? Are you?
I suppose I'm going out of it.
Okay.
So I went for Guns N' Roses.
Woo! That was always going to be one, wasn't it?
I think
we sort of all made sure that we'd do something different, obviously, but
I love Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses was going to be a big one for people.
Yeah, Guns is pretty well known, around worldwide. They have sold 100 million albums worldwide, 45 million of which is in the US. There's so many good songs like Paradise City, Sweet Child of Mine, You Could Be Mine.
Appetite might be my favorite album, maybe ever. It's probably between it and maybe or something, but
it's pretty flawless. Songs.
It took me a long time to come around to Guns N' Roses because I was such a die-hard metal fan growing up.
Yeah.
But you swayed me, Dave. You swayed me.
I've done work.
It's
a hell of a debut album. It's probably
Appetite's unbelievable now.
Just about any of the best up there.
Yeah.
I love Guns N' Roses. Axl Rose is a bit of a beep, but
Axl Rose is an interesting character. Yeah.
Axl is an interesting character. So, main members of Guns is pretty much Axl on vocals, Axl Rose on vocals, Slash on guitar, Izzy Stradlin on guitar, Duff McKagan on bass, Steven Adler on drums, and then shortly after Appetite was released, Adler sort of had a meltdown, and
that a shift him.
Matt Sorum came in then to do the drums for the next few albums, so.
Did any of you watch that VH1 behind the music for? I think me and
we
you watched it
together.
Yeah,
seen wee bits of it.
It's mental.
I think that was actually the thing that allowed me to get over that hump of not really listening to them.
Nah.
And that was the thing that sort of
Brought the end of them.
Yeah, brought them to my attention.
They're damn good, like.
So back in LA, they formed the band. It's kind of like an amalgamation of two bands. So it was like LA Guns,
yeah.
LA Guns, and then Axl was in Hollywood Rose.
Hollywood Rose, aye.
So the two bands sort of joined together, and then more or less became Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
But some of the members from both bands sort of faded out. Obviously, Axl was part of a lot of that. So like they had like Axl on vocals.
And to be fair, I think if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember. It might have been Duff and Slash, but Duff and Slash went to scout Axl. It wasn't the other way about.
Mm-hmm.
Duff and I'm nearly sure I'm right in saying that from that VH1 documentary. It was Duff and Slash went to a Hollywood Rose gig to scout Axl, not the other way around.
Yeah, yeah. They had a few members, and obviously they had Axl, they had Izzy, they had the fellow was called or known as Guns. He was playing guitar as well in this band that they formed together.
That'd be Tracy Guns, I think. From LA Guns.
Could be, yeah.
I think so.
And they had another fellow, Oli Beach. I think that's how you pronounce it.
That's definitely wrong. Go
That's
ahead.
definitely wrong. And Rob Gardner on drums. Basically, all these guys were more or less faded out, and then the band became, as they're known now, as the main Guns N' Roses members. But Guns have so many interesting stories. Like it's actually unbelievable. Like it's just if you go on to that sort of like Guns N' Roses story and just like go down that rabbit hole, there's just so much that happens. Like
Slash died.
Slash technically died.
Slash died in an elevator or at the door of an elevator or something crazy.
It's absolutely insane.
I think it sort of said in that documentary, it was like they just tried to push like all, like we watched The Dirt, obviously the Motley Crue one, and they were sort of saying like they wanted to be the baddest band and
the Sunset Strip.
On the Sunset Strip and all that carry on, but I think Guns just maybe went over and above everything that they could have done. Like
Guns really do epitomise just rock and roll.
Yeah,
they just
yeah.
Summarise the whole
sort of set the tone, don't they?
Yeah.
So when they were sort of like as a band before they sort of got signed up, they were sort of like turning around unauthorized, going around like different parts of the US. In particular, they were going around the West Coast, and they were traveling from I think it was Sacramento to Seattle. During this trip, they were traveling in two vans. I think both of them actually broke down the highway. They had to like hijack their way back, or sort of like I think they left the drums and all behind, and they just took the guitars with them and basically got back again. They didn't even get there in the end. They just went back home. So like
they were a complete mess of a band. Like
completely disorganized.
Showing up like 2 hours late to shows and making fans wait so long.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get away with that anymore.
No.
So
got bottled off in Dublin, but anyway.
Yeah.
They signed with Geffen Records in March '86, and they received a $75,000 reward in advance. Prior to the performance, when Geffen was present, Axl, they all knew they were there. They knew the record company was there. Axl got pissed, did heroin, sniffed coke, and the show was actually brilliant. And the representatives from Geffen or whatever they knew about it, but they didn't care because they knew they seen something in the band that was definitely something different. So they got them signed up, and as I say, when they got the $75,000 cash up front, whatever slash blew most of it in drugs.
There's stuff in that documentary about like Slash like smoking a cigarette and all on stage, and it like falling down between him and the guitar, and he was literally burning himself, and he just kept like shredding the life out of the guitar. It's crazy, like.
So I guess where this movie pitch is going, it's obviously going from where we started, like, Guns coming into the scene, and like, maybe this movie focuses a wee bit on Axl because he's very unhinged, like.
He's an interesting character, like he's a bit of an a-hole, but he's an interesting character.
Like a lot of people are, but a lot of the people that come into them big bands and stuff, there's always nearly something goes wrong,
There's a wee bit of baggage, isn't there? There's something there.
It's always the assholes that you just gravitate towards, even though they're assholes.
You can't always see like some sort of childhood, like bad childhood upbringing, and Axl and all had that too, and then they'll just sort of they're all living in pure squalor, like living in the Sunset Strip or wherever it is, and just like being off their heads 24/7. So they're not doing too well for themselves, but it's like that sort of madness created greatness at the same time, and you've seen a lot of like artists, like every single nearly. Even more ones that are a wee bit more sensible, like the Elton John ones and stuff. It's still a wee bit mental in there too, like
So basically, this movie will just like
start off by showing how they sort of formed together, some of the crazy stuff they done before they got signed up, and then obviously once things took off, obviously like, they went off hugely. Like they really did take off.
The appetite blew up.
It just blew up. Like some of the stories like that I would like to cover in this potential movie pitch is that like there's been incidents where like Axel's been hungover, and they're due to play a show obviously that evening. So Stephen Adler is like trying to clean up the room. Is apparently an absolute mess where Axel's lying in. So like Adler's trying to like clear up the room, and like he's trying to say to like Axel, like, you know, you get ready, we're due in a couple of hours to play, whatever. Apparently like Axel just gets up, gets a coffee table, chucks it at Adler, grabs him and fires him into a fire extinguisher. Like actually beats him around the room like. And then like before they go and play that evening, apparently they've made up. And it's very interesting between them two because in Rocket Queen, don't know if any of you know this.
No, hit me up there.
There's a part in that song.
Oh, about his woman.
About the woman.
About his woman.
It was Stephen Adler's girlfriend.
Yeah, so apparently that all started from Adler's girlfriend found out that Adler had cheated on her. So, as a way of revenge, she found out obviously, or she got in some sort of contact with Axel, and he was like, you know,
she was probably about just like,
yeah, she's
you know
probably
what I mean?
just floating about. Like,
they're recording and they're in studio and all that.
So like she was like,
this is a mental story.
She seen Axel as some kind of like god, and she went in, and obviously the two of them had sex with her, and she told him about the Adler thing, and she was apparently being quite vocal during the whole process, to the point where Axel was actually getting pissed off. He says, "Are you faking this? Like, are you actually faking this?" And apparently.
And they recorded it or something?
They recorded it and they put it into Rocket Queen. So if you're listening to Rocket Queen, it's probably best you listen to the headphones on because, you know,
it comes out clear.
Comes out more clear. So
we've experienced that with our editing process here.
We have indeed. So they have Adler and Axel tend to have a very interesting sort of relationship. There's also been other few interesting stories as well, which will be quite good for this movie pitch. In one instance, they opened up for Alice Cooper. So Alice Cooper was,
what sort of tour was this?
Alice Cooper was pretty darn huge. Obviously, around then, he's been around quite a while now, but back then, imagine opening up for Alice Cooper, that's pretty big. Like,
yeah.
So Axel didn't show up for whatever reason. So Izzy had to like sing the songs, but like parts of the songs he didn't know the lyrics to, so he had to make them up. So then Slash sort of thought, well, he started to ask the fans, do you want to come up and sing and we'll play? And the end of it, they got pissed off and trashed the place.
Oh, Christ.
So, yeah, I'd really love to see that.
That was really to epitomise rock and roll.
There was that one, if you ever watched, I watched that full set like live at the Ritz in '88. It's just madness. Like, I think that's the one where Axel jumps into this crowd and hits somebody and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just complete
bedlam.
Yeah.
That'd be a hell of a scene.
Oh yeah.
That
definitely.
would be incredible to see.
The movie, that could be fantastic.
So much potential. There's another instance in '89. Obviously, you know, I've had to like trim down all these like instances, but this is one that did stand out to me. In 1989, David Bowie, I don't know if he was invited on set or not, or he just happened to be there, but obviously heard about guns and he was there. So they were shooting the video for It's So Easy, and Axel had a girlfriend at the time, and apparently when Bowie was there, Bowie was like, you know, sort of like smiling at her and like, you know, being very polite, you know. To which Axel got very angry and then punched Bowie.
I love them for, like, because of these like biopics and all that. They're like the wee cameos that you have in them, like the one in the dirt there with David Lee Roth and that, like, you know, you know, Diamond David Lee Roth sitting on her couch and all that.
Ozzy and the Ants.
Ozzy and the Ants. Yeah.
And they actually made up for it later on that night. They were drinking to the early hours of the morning after that. So of course, that's how it goes. But yeah, you don't remember this because we all sat and watched The Dirt last year.
Yeah.
There was an instance where Adler saved Nikki Sixx's life. They were partying all together.
In the house, and he overdoses. And he's the one that sort of calls the ambulance for him.
He went in and slapped shit out of his face. Like, he basically went in, he was passed out cold, and he beat the life out of him to try and, you know, waken him up or whatever, because he was like passed out. And apparently got him into the hospital the next day. I walked in to see him, and he says Nicky, how are you like? And he goes, I'm a bit rough like, but my bass feels awful.
Jekyll of an Ellen. They get into it. Axel got in a bit of trouble because like I think Slash is like half black, obviously, or something, and they got into it there too. I think I can't remember the bloody song, but like, you know, Axel uses the N word in it or something.
Yes.
And then they get into it with like NWA, and then
that was
Axel came up on stage with like an NWA t-shirt and all too.
Mm-hmm. That was on the second album. Also maybe like an EP kind of album, you know. Lies, it's called. They've got Patience on it, and they've got it's like 8 songs on it.
Yeah,
I think it's actually Puffers. Move to the City. I think Puffers.
Puffer's going to be listening to this, and he's going to be very happy with your choice, Festy.
Puffer, I think Puffer likes Lies. He says Lies. He says everybody says Appetite, but I think Puffer likes Lies.
Patience off.
It is.
Lies.
It is. There's so many.
Patience is a fantastic song.
It's absolutely sensational.
That'll be our boy Pete's favorite gun song.
That'll be it.
Might be mine.
Yours too?
Possibly. I love it. Like.
What's wrong with you people?
There's so many, and like because Duff McKagan, he's from like Seattle. There's another crazy story that before Cobain died, or before like I don't know if it was before Cobain died or how soon it was beforehand, but like apparently they're on the same flight going to Seattle or whatever, and they were chatting on it like. So that's like another crazy thing. It just goes to show how a lot of them bands.
Duff went downhill real badly too, and all as well. But
I think Duff's my favorite member. Like I love Duff. Like he's probably
big fan of Slash now, to be honest.
I love Duff because he's just so.
I love Slash's hair.
All his stuff with Miles Kennedy and all Slash's class
it is
too.
good. It is good.
All of it.
Yeah.
I really like Miles Kennedy.
So this movie, obviously, including a lot of these things that just occurred, and then I guess like it'll go into where like the band members are slowly fading out. I mean, obviously, where it'll show
the downfall of the band.
It'll show Adler. Like I think Adler, it got so bad for Adler. I think Adler at one point after became a rant boy. Like Jesus, it's got real dark, and if you even
hit rock bottom.
If you even watch videos of Adler, even as far as like, there's actually videos of him going around on YouTube and all, where he's playing like the drums and all, like the different Guns songs. Obviously, he's just in his own sort of house playing them, but he's still got it. Like, but even when you hear him talk now, like the man's definitely got a lot of damage.
He's very jittery in his interviews.
Even Duff looked real bad for a while too. Like,
yeah.
Slash looks the best.
Slash does.
And like Slash was saying, like when we watched that documentary about like having like a bottle of Jack a day or whatever it was, in bad shape, like, and he's been clean and sober for a long time now. Slash.
I read this crazy rumor about Slash. It was in regards to his tongue. He drank that much Jack a day that his tongue eventually went black.
Jeez.
Whoa.
But I don't know how true that is because I'm fairly certain I've seen him talk.
And it looks okay. Well, maybe it's like one of them over time. Maybe it heals itself or something.
That's just one of the craziest things I heard about Slash.
So many crazy stories. So like this film obviously will go into like where Izzy sort of fades out as well, and Slash sort of falls out as well, and then I think at the end like there's sort of like more other musicians coming in and playing. It's obviously at this point it's not Guns no more.
Yeah.
There's too many members. It's not Guns, and then eventually McKagan leaves around 97, 98, and then it's like it's just Axl more or less.
Yeah.
And then like I guess like after that Axl was getting in various musicians to try and like relaunch sort of the new Guns.
There was that album that they went on and did for like how many years was it? The Chinese Democracy, and it was like being recorded for
13 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Apparently it's the most expensive album ever made. It's like 14 million it cost to make it over that length of time.
Yeah,
I heard it turned out reasonably well though. I haven't listened to any of it, but
I've never actually listened to any of it myself.
Actually, probably the best Guns material since maybe
Spaghetti Incident or Appetite or something.
Yeah.
The Spaghetti Incident apparently isn't even about a spaghetti incident. It's actually a reference to cocaine.
Okay.
It was. I think it was.
Wouldn't be like them, like.
So that's a whole other story.
Aye.
But there's even around the early 2000s, like they got on like Buckethead. Like Buckethead, I love Buckethead. Like the guy obviously comes
Shredder.
Aye, absolute Shredder. He wears a KFC bucket in his head, and like he wears like a big yellow. What's the right word?
Raincoat.
It's like a raincoat.
Yeah.
He's like 6'6". He's like the height of you, Dave. He's got a very sort of big sort of like physique on stage, and he's
a weird guy.
He's a weird guy. I guess that was kind of Axl's launches, and this will be the new era Slash or whatever. But he only lasted 2 or 3 years, and he does a lot of solo stuff. Very,
Axel was very hard to work with and all that.
very much so. Like he
Apparently,
wasn't.
Buckethead is too. Apparently, he's so socially awkward that's kind of why he doesn't. That's why he's not involved in any of these big major bands. Is because he's a hard fella to work with, or something like that.
He does a lot of work by himself. Like apparently, he's like over 200 studio albums released. He releases like 8 albums, 10 albums a year.
Yeah, he's
crazy.
like a musical prodigy.
Yeah.
Right.
So the movie will go into this wee bit and how like Guns as kind of Axel's band now is just more or less crashing and unraveling, and then obviously it'll go into the bit about Chinese Democracy trying to record it and the whole struggle with that, and then eventually they're going out on tour. And I remember I think you mentioned it briefly earlier, Dave, where they
Got bottled off in Dublin.
got bottled off in Dublin.
Yeah.
That's because
We want to be here.
They had a point where Axel, like whenever he was young and he was
It was
at
cool.
and it was rock and roll, like it was cool to come out on stage like messed up like an hour late, and that was cool. But then there hits a point where it's not cool anymore. Like,
Past that,
You got work in the morning, like.
True that.
So obviously it goes into this a wee bit, and then like sort of like when the movie comes to maybe now in the last 5 years is where like I guess he realizes that
He needs to wise up with it.
he needs to wise up, and no matter how much he's tried, it's not going to be the same. So like I think he's all heard the numbers like about 10 years ago, the last whatever time it was, that like Slash was saying he'd like to get back with Axel, and Axel says he'd consider it, and Duff would be like, I'm game for anything sort of thing, and it never seemed to go anywhere, but obviously it did, because then they released the major news that in 2016 they were going to do Not in This Lifetime tour, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was that.
So I actually went to that in Dublin. I don't know why you didn't go.
Fair point.
Fair point indeed.
Fair point, well made.
Catman, they're coming back this year.
See, it's just the Axel's vocals just are absolutely horrendous now, and it annoys me.
I was there that night, and he was fine.
No, he's
He
not
was-
fine. He's not
he
fine.
was-
He's got
he-
like a backing track playing over it or something, and
Glad he wasn't bad.
Not as bad as
I would literally rather go and watch Slash with Miles Kennedy and really enjoy it.
But you can watch Slash there
Not true.
with Duff. So basically, they relaunched this band, but obviously the only members that came back were Slash and Duff. And I guess, yes, they are quite very much Guns, but the other members are basically members that Axel had got from the previous tour. So, yes, Guns are back. It's kind of like, but it's like any reunion
That'd
with
be the
bands.
end. Like,
It's kind of like, that'll be the end. It'll be kind of like, them getting back together, getting chatting, and I think it'll be a nice way to end the film where they're just sort of, they're sitting in rehearsals and they're just sort of like playing a song and they're looking around the room and they're sort of all sort of smelling together.
sort of all sobered up and growing up a bit, and they're like just looking around saying, this feels right. Like
The movie sort of fades out with them sort of walking on
fade
the
to
stage.
black.
Fade to black. Walking onto the stage, the crowd going nuts. I think it'd be a really good movie. It feels kind of similar to Motley Crue's film The Dirt, because
They're
there's
all
so much
though.
crazy shit that goes on between
Yeah.
both films, but Guns has to be done at some point. It will be done at some point. I know it will. Like,
Oh, well,
it
like,
probably will.
they're too big to ignore.
Rage probably won't be done at some point, but it should.
But I
Fair
like
enough.
that. That's a very different.
That's different, aye.
Aye.
You want to go next, Tom, or?
I can go next.
Well, my pitch is going to be on the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I'm looking forward to this one.
I've got like sort of a working movie title because I don't know really what you would call it, but I'm just going to settle on Californication.
Oh, that's good.
It's just short and sweet, and you know who it's about.
Yeah, that's good, lad. I like that.
So
Chili's might actually be my favourite band out of all the bands being discussed here.
No. Fair enough, but I like
well, at the start of the film, it will just be a heavy emphasis on their early days, on the friendship of the three guys, Anthony Kiedis, Michael Flea Balzari, and Hillel Slovak. These guys all met in high school,
Right.
and basically that was where the early formation of the band came about. Like, they weren't the Chili's then and there. It took a wee while for them to get there, but that was basically where it all began.
Yeah.
I would like it to sort of focus a bit on Flea's upbringing, because Flea at the start didn't actually really like rock music. He was actually like more into classical instruments,
Really?
like the trumpet. Like, not many people probably know it, but Flea is actually like a top quality world class trumpet player, because you'll hear the trumpets in some
some of their songs.
of their songs,
Alright,
and that's actually Flea. So I'd like it to sort of,
something a bit different.
yeah,
put a bit of the focus on Flea, because I think out of all the members, you've got Frusciante, who is just everybody's idol at this point.
Yeah.
Kiedis obviously gets a lot of the limelight too.
As
Chad
lead
Smith,
singer too.
Chad Smith, he's just the drummer. A
Looks
lot
like
of
Will
people's
Ferrell.
eyes. Yeah. But because I'm such a fan of bass, I would love there to be a certain emphasis put on Flea,
Right.
because I think he's the heart and soul of the band.
But I think he's definitely he's maybe, I'd say he's most people, like, everybody likes Frusciante for singing him, but, like, Flea's a cool, he just seems way cooler than
He's
the
a
rest.
he's a free spirit, like, isn't
Yeah,
he?
it's
Possibly the craziest, like.
Yeah,
Aye.
his presence on stage is just undeniable.
Yeah.
But again, I would also it almost will boil down to a couple of characters. There's no such main character,
Yeah.
because I think they're all just such big personalities that the film itself would need to focus on several of the members. Definitely Kiedis, because he had such a strange upbringing as well.
That's mental, lad.
He
Absolutely insane. I seen that recently. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, but I just
oh
had it.
no, yeah.
Oh, absolutely insane.
He's actually wrote autobiography on it about him and his dad, like the antics between him and his dad. Like he was very friend, he had a good relationship with his mom and dad. He actually moved from Michigan to I think it was LA
Could be, yeah.
to live with his dad, who was an aspiring actor. Kiedis himself wanted to be an actor, so that would probably play a part in as well, like his relationship with his dad and his struggles to make it in the acting world.
Right. These are things I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's actually quite dark. See, I watched an interview with his dad. And
His dad basically brought him into like a life of women and drugs
Yeah.
at an early age. I think he was maybe 12, 13.
he was, yeah. It's mad, like, it's absolutely mad. I seen that fairly recently, and just when you mentioned it, Anthony Kiedis and his dad, I just recall that because it's actually quite sort of like scary, because his dad is still adamant that it's it was okay.
Yeah, yeah, this is just normal life.
Aye.
There would obviously, there would be the early formations of the Chili band, which at the time they were called. I think it would just be funny to throw this name in, just for like a brief wee period of the film. The band was first called Tony Flo and the Miraculously Majestic Masters of Mayhem.
I was not aware of that. But it was,
The Red Hot Chili Peppers is weird enough with the name, like, and that's what
I kind of wish they stuck with that. Can you repeat that name?
Tony Flo and the Miraculously Majestic Masters of Mayhem.
Say that 5 times, John.
Yeah. But very quickly, Flea had this switch to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and that is the name they ultimately stuck with.
That's the name they went with, yes.
The Chili's found it like extremely hard in the beginning. They formed in '83. They were playing to small crowds in the Sunset Strip, just bars, little clubs that were willing enough to let these guys go up on stage, because Slovak, who probably is overshadowed an awful lot by Frusciante, because Frusciante is basically just who people think of when they think of Chili's.
he's a brilliant guitarist, like.
He is, and that's I can't dispute that. But
I really like him because he's got like quite a thing. Like, he's got quite a reverence for Hendrix, and I'm a big Hendrix head. So
yeah, Frusciante is a prodigy in himself. Like, but Slovak, he's a guy who just goes sort of under the radar. He was the first real guitarist, and if you go back and you listen to some of the early Chili's music, it's right there. You can listen to it, and you can hear that he himself was quite a great guitarist as well.
yeah,
And he was actually the one that sort of brought them to like people's attention. Like, I know Flea and all of his antics on stage sort of would
encourage people.
get the buzz going, but it was Slovak sort of musicianship, sort of
talent.
yeah. But obviously, like, it would skip a lot of the unnecessary stuff with the film, but it would show them winning over crowds, but not necessarily critics, because, as I say, they had a really slow start. Their first 3 albums were not considered, groundbreaking at all.
Changed so much too.
Yeah.
Their sounds changed. Like, they're the only band that seems to still be going. And they've went over like so many decades. Like, I only sort of found out that they were going in the 80s, weren't they?
Yeah, they
Like,
started.
they started in
in
the 80s, like,
Yeah.
and it's crazy, like, because
You sort of just associate them with like early
mid-90s,
90s.
mid-90s stuff.
90s, sort of 2000s.
Yeah.
Because the main members of that first couple of 3 albums was Kiedis, Flea, Slovak, and Jack Irons, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Aye.
that was more or less the main lineup.
Aye.
But then obviously the movie would take a little bit of a turn because it's well documented. Kiedis had a serious heroin addiction,
Yeah.
and so did Slovak. They both sort of fell into just a life of they couldn't do without it.
Yeah.
And it just affected everything. Not so much their actual performances or anything like that there, but just their mental states. They were missing practices. They were gone. They were missing for like days at a time where their manager, like Flea, nobody could get in contact with them. You know, this just started
This
like...
is the Nicky Six thing in the dirt. Like,
Yeah, it's very, very similar. But then I suppose so many of the bands that came around in the 80s,
It's all
90s,
the same.
they just, you know, you were literally explaining the Guns story. They all probably fell victim to it too.
Mhm.
Chili's are no different.
Yeah.
So obviously I would like to fast forward the movie, you know, through that sort of first three album cycles. Yeah. Because as much as it's interesting, people want to get to the meat of the story, which is Frusciante, Chad Smith, whenever they come into the throw. But basically, there would come a point, like maybe sort of after the half-hour mark, I would sort of like it to sort of deal with Slovak's untimely death.
Yeah.
Oh, he died, right?
He
Okay.
died, yeah. He died not long after their third album's tour.
Heroin addiction.
Heroin, yeah,
Right.
it's the thing that got him in the end. And this obviously sent Kiedis into like a spiral of depression. He actually fled the county at the time.
Okay.
He didn't want to be around. So obviously the Chili's were in serious arrears. It actually caused Irons to leave the band. The drummer just was so depressed that he just had had enough and he left. And this left Kiedis and Flea just in a state of what happens next.
See,
Yeah.
I know the Chili's a good bit, but I didn't know all this.
Oh,
Because,
aye.
like, when we were sort of like younger in that, when I associate the Chili's, I always sort of associate them with kind of like sort of like a friendly, like clean
Yeah.
kind of band, you know, like band, not Guns N' Roses, like, you know, but
No,
obviously
aye.
they went through the same sort of problem.
Then, shortly after Slovak's death, you know, there was the downturn of the band, but quickly things came around again. The band were introduced to John Frusciante. He was an aspiring guitarist. He was only a teenager at the time, but he was introduced to the band by, I believe, their drummer at the time. I don't have his name down, but that was how he came into the... Chad Smith was then introduced as well. I'm not sure of the timeline of who joined when or anything like that there, but again, the movie will deal with all that there.
Frusciante used to go to see the shows, the Chili Peppers, and he used to be in the crowds watching
Yeah,
them.
he was a major fan of
He was
theirs.
a major fan.
That's
He,
cool.
he loved Slovak, like he absolutely loved Slovak.
Yeah.
And yeah, he must have been introduced one way or another.
Then after they join, it then progresses on to their fourth album, which was the first album. It's called Mother's Milk, which helped them break basically the Billboard. You know, they break into the charts. They're noticed, particularly for their cover of Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground.
Right.
For the longest time, I'm gonna get shot for this.
I know what you're
I
gonna say.
thought that was the Chili's original material.
There's so many songs I've been listening to recently, and I've heard like weird 60s soul vibe covers that are like samples from it, and
Yeah.
you're like, okay.
I think it was maybe me and you had the conversation, and I was sort of saying that it was like
Yeah.
the Stevie Wonder song, because the Stevie Wonder song, which is
It was probably you that actually made
I
me
think it
aware of
was because we were chatting about it. I think at one time, but Higher Ground's such a great tune, and they covered it. And there's a lot of songs around that time where they covered like Castle Smith Sam. Maybe it was in the next album, like
Yeah.
Hendrix. But just when you're on Mother's Milk, there's a song I can't mind the top of it off my head. But do you remember the song by Crazy Town, Butterfly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the intro down, down,
Yeah.
that's Frusciante. Like
Is it?
that's a Chili Peppers song. That the Crazy Town sample.
Oh, really? That's
Mhm.
good.
I didn't know that.
Fair enough.
I have so many notes here. That is not a part of my system.
Sorry, I'm just getting carried away.
Oh no, I appreciate learning new stuff. Then obviously that just finally there's a bit of good happening for the Chili's at this point. They get a follow-up album, and I'm pretty sure everybody in the room knows this one. It was produced by legendary producer Rick Rubin. Blood Sugar Sex Magic. It really propelled them into almost superstardom.
Yeah.
They had the major hit Under the Bridge, and this started to create a little bit of problems underneath the surface. It wasn't necessarily, brought the media's attention or even the fandom's attention. But what was happening was Frusciante was falling victim to heroin himself. He was not coping well with the
Superstardom.
Yeah, like overnight success. This got to Frusciante. He just lost all sort of track of what to do, and it caused serious stress for the band. Him and Kiedis. It's been reported after the fact that there was just so many arguments between the pair that it ultimately led to John leaving the band for the first time.
Yeah.
This won't be the first time John leaves the band, but
he's got back recently. I think I've seen
back
that recently. He came back again.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Whoops, sorry.
But again, this brings the Chili's back down to ground zero, where they're just at a loss at what to do. They've lost basically their main songwriter, the guy that brought all this creativity, brought them to superstardom. They've lost this guy now, and they brought in another guy called
Dave Navarro.
Again, the Chili's sort of go into a bit of regression from there. They sort of approach music differently. They go for a more sort of heavy metal style, which just doesn't suit the Chili's at all. We all love them for their funk and their
it's like a
jazzy
nice
feel.
flow to their music.
Do you know what? Like, I think it's kind of like because there's that album that Navarro played on it. There is some good songs on it though.
Oh yeah, one.
I do go to it all the time,
Yeah, 1 Hot Minute.
Aeroplane's on it, and
yeah,
you like Aeroplane?
I do. Then again, as I said at the start of my pitch, this won't just focus on one particular main character, be it Kiedis or Flea. Like, I would like quite a portion of the film to be dedicated to Frusciante and his struggles after leaving.
I suppose it's the tension between the two because Kiedis just went through this himself. He's lost a friend, and then there's just tension with seeing somebody else go down the same road.
Yeah. Basically, in his time away, he went off, did his own solo stuff, but all the while he was still struggling with a massive heroin addiction. He had to go to rehab because of it, and what happened was he came back to the band after Flea visited him while he was in his stint.
Yeah.
And apparently, John just broke down crying. Apparently he had to get his nose redone.
He did, right.
He had so many issues, but basically Flea came with the offer, could you come back to us? And he did. And that was what led them to make the album Californication.
Yeah, very good.
Which to date is their best selling album and quite
the best known album.
Yeah, it's debatable. It's probably debatable amongst all the fans that it could quite possibly be their best. Yeah. I don't know if it is, but
I quite like
Californication. It's just a killer from start to finish.
If you're interested in checking it out, there's a video of Frusciante in 1984. You can check it out on YouTube. It's basically that period where he's left the Peppers. And it's frightening. It's actually frightening.
Seen a bit of that,
You want to see how he was thin anyway, but he's skeleton thin, and the paleness in his face and his eyes. It's just pure heroin. It's actually nuts.
He's in such a bad way. Apparently, he was homeless. He was literally a beggar, which is mad to think, just considering where he had came from. I'll probably round off here. So it'll fast forward at this point. John's back.
You want the big fun end.
Yeah, starting to pick up again. So they start enduring more success. Took a wee while for Frusciante to sort of get his confidence back, but eventually they got there. Then they started releasing great album after great album. By the way, Stadium Arcadium, the double album. But then after, I think it was 3 or 4 years of just insane touring, the band just decided, we're burnt out, we just need a wee bit of a break. So they took a pretty long hiatus for all the members to just go off and do their own wee thing. And this led again to another departure from Frusciante.
Yeah.
But this time it was nothing personal. It was just
it was very mutual.
Yeah, it was just a mutual parting of ways, and he went off and did his thing. And then basically I would like the movie to round off by highlighting the remainder of their story just in short wee flashes, because there's just so much more that followed, but I'd like to include it all.
little highlights like the albums that follow Stadium Arcadium.
Yes.
Josh Klinghoffer, the replacement for Frusciante, who played with him for 10 years, I think.
Frusciante recommended him, didn't he?
Yeah, he was the backup guitarist whenever they went out on tour, so they would have like a fuller sound. He actually got, I think, John's blessing to join the band.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Obviously show some of their music awards, like the Grammys that they've earned. I think they've won 7 in their time, and multiple other ones. Obviously their Hall of Fame induction, I think it was 2014. That'll be pretty incredible.
That will be pretty good.
That'll be good, aye.
And then, as the credits are rolling, we're going to get just a little post-credit scene.
You gonna go full Marvel?
Where it cuts to 2019, or sorry, actually no, 2020, because it'll have happened by then. Where Frusciante rejoins the band, and they go on stage for the first time again, and the film just cuts as soon as the first opening riff plays.
Yeah, what a soundtrack that movie's gonna have.
It'd be fierce.
That'd be really good. There's so much history there, like
It's still the test of time, Red Hot Chili Peppers, really. Like,
I mean, even if you're not a fan, but I'm pretty sure at
one
one point
fan,
or other,
but I wouldn't be major.
I think everybody.
My Spotify playlist full of Chili's, like I
Yeah.
enjoy chilling back, playing a bit of Xbox and listening to a bit of Chili's, like.
you can't
Yeah.
So good pitch, Tom. Does
Good
this bring
pitch.
us around to Dave? Dave,
Thank
you're doing Westlife, aren't you?
Westlife,
I
lad.
heard it was Ronan Keaton.
We were sort of.
He'll include the Boyzone bit and all. We're Keaton left.
Dave, go into detail about why Keaton left Boyzone for me then.
We're sort of bonding about sort of what we're gonna do in that, and I think we're sort of maybe me and Vesty are sort of big. Tom's joined in too, Dave will be as well, but I think me and Vesty were sort of thinking Oasis, but it's hard enough to get the Gallagher brothers to talk to each other. So
No,
getting
never
them
mind
moving-
make a film.
You know,
Not
that
gonna happen.
might be one reunion that never happens because they're so fucking stupid.
Then again,
thick.
because it's a
yeah.
biopic, you'd be casting different guys, like actual actors.
But then they'd probably have to like sign off on it or something, and then they'd stab
That's
each
true.
other.
Here, how good would the Oasis movie be in all
Unbelievable.
honesty? God, I love Oasis.
But I thought I'd change it up a wee touch because we've got 3 deadly bands there.
One
Obviously,
very political.
one
Very,
very.
very drug overdose happy.
So I thought I'd change it up a wee touch and do
Also quite political.
yeah, well,
Decisive.
yeah, well,
Or divisive.
divisive
sorry.
is the word.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
I thought I'd do one because it hasn't been done yet, and there's been a lot of these ones out recently. There's been some good ones with Talk Already, Get Richard A. Train, 8 Mile, what else was
Straight
that?
Outta Compton.
Straight Outta Compton. Nobody's done Jay-Z yet. Big Sean Carter, Big Hove. He's the biggest. Like, there's no debating this. Like there's some people will argue better rappers. Hove's the biggest. He's the biggest rapper of all time. Fact. So.
Also some clinker tunes.
Some bangers as well. So I thought I would do Jay-Z needs to do something. Now Jay-Z could make this bloody film himself. He's got that much money. So do it.
Aye.
So Sean Carter, Jay-Z, Hove, all the good nicknames. Rapper, producer, entrepreneur. He was born in New York, Brooklyn. He sold 100 million records worldwide. He's got 22 Grammys, which is the most by a rapper. Most #1 albums by a solo artist on the Billboard 200. Rolling Stone 100 Greatest Artists, and he's the first hip hop billionaire. He's crossed over into billionaire status now. Has Hove.
Oh, craziness.
Just a wee side note: he set up Rock Nation Records.
Man has more money than God.
Aye, well, and then Rock Nation Sports, which is a management company, and he's got some clients list as we're all in the sports world. He's got Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants. He's got Kyrie Irving from the Brooklyn Nets. He's got Todd Gurley. He's got Kevin Durant. He's got Kevin De Bruyne. He's got Eric Bailly for United Men.
Kevin De Bruyne.
He's got Kevin De Bruyne.
God.
Big Lukaku as well. So he's got some.
Big Rom.
He's got some. He's got a
I
hell of
wasn't
a.
even aware of that he had his own.
Oh, he's got a hell of a client list. Like, it goes on a wee bit. I'll talk a wee bit after about. He owned a stake in the Brooklyn Nets. He was actually one of the main reasons that it was the New Jersey Nets, and he moved them to Brooklyn. Basically, he was one of the.
So your movie had been focused more on the business and the music side.
I don't see. I'm not entirely sure because he's got a good come up story, and then obviously he's just went into like complete
Superstar.
Thanos level of like business or whatever.
Titan of the music
I
industry.
actually quite liked the way they did Straight Outta Compton.
My movie would hate your movie.
Yeah, 100%. So like he's got a quite good come up story as well as the fact that he's went into just craziness with what he's doing.
Though in his younger days, he was very sort of political too.
Oh
wasn't he?
yeah, definitely. He's been involved in politics and all that too, with certain leaders and stuff of like both. Well, I think it's more Democrat more so than anything else. But Big Hove. So he had 3 siblings, and apparently he was very good at school, like especially in English. So you can kind of tell. Whereas like he's been sort of dubbed as one of the best rappers as like Flo. His lyricisms are really good too, especially in his earlier stuff, like really early on. But he was really good at English in school apparently, and his father left the family at age 11. I think he was sort of splitting time then with his grandmother and his actual mother, being raised. Crack had been introduced into most neighbourhoods as it had been like the 90s and stuff.
Right.
So that he took to that till to make money. And there's a sort of he references in one of his songs, but apparently he shot his older brother in the arm for stealing his jewelry when he was like 13 or something. He's been shot at himself.
Typical brother, behavior.
Yeah. We did wrestling moves and things like that there, but shoot him. I don't know if it's entirely true or anything.
I went through a PlayStation in my head.
That could have been a bullet, Dave. Like, could have been worse.
The bullet was to the arm. PlayStation to the head can kill you.
He went to the same high school, interestingly enough, as Biggie Smalls and Busta Rhymes, so he's in the steam company there. They all went to the same high school.
That's really cool.
Biggie comes up in this.
Busta
Rhymes.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Busta Rhymes is a god amongst rappers.
Hey!
So he went to the same high school as them fellas. I haven't totally decided on where I want this to start and end, but I did like the way Straight Outta Compton covered quite a long period of NWA's. Like it sort of went to the end with Eazy-E dying and all that, so it did cover quite a span of time. So I think you could do a wee bit of this, but some of the more later stuff you could maybe do it as like an outro type thing of all the things that he's done. But the sort of the come up, as the sort of saying states about like how he got up and going. No label would touch him at all. So no label would give him a deal, so he was selling like CDs in the back of his car, sort of the 50 Cent type thing, and Get Rich or Die Trying.
Yeah.
And that was around about 96. So him and 2 mates they just ended up setting up their own. They probably had some money from
their independent
ventures.
Their independent ventures, and
they're selling
narcotics,
merchandise.
Merchandise and stuff. So they set up Rockefeller Records, which is a big company. And he worked on the first album. He worked with DJ Premier and DJ Clark Kent, who are 2 absolutely massive DJs in the rap game, and this is on his first album. So we got them in, and he sort of used his knowing of Biggie Smalls. Biggie had blown up already, sort of, well, not blown up entirely, but was out there already. And because he obviously went to school with him, probably knew him, he got Biggie to feature on Brooklyn's Finest, a song called Brooklyn's Finest, on the first album. So that gave him like credibility, and obviously having Biggie at a time when he was at his its peak or whatever, having that on your first album really give it legitimacy, like Biggie Smalls on an album, both from the same town too, obviously both Brooklyn. So he did the second album then, and it was In My Lifetime Volume 1, and he went obviously Biggie was working with P Diddy, Puff Daddy at the time, Sean Combs. And he had Def Jam set up, so he went to Def Jam to produce his second album, and it was much more, sort of.
Didn't Def Jam have a fighting video game? Am I making that up?
No, I think you're right. I think you're right.
PS2.
I think I owned it.
So he went to Def Jam, and obviously that became a better produced and recorded album. Obviously, it did a lot more money behind it and things of that nature. And then there's the death of Biggie and Tupac, which happens in and around that time. I think Jay has said that it was his hardest album to record because it was put out. There's actually a couple of really major things that happen here. This album was being recorded and written when the whole Tupac died and got murdered, and then Biggie died as well. And obviously he knows Biggie from high school. He's working with Def Jam Records and with P Diddy, Puff Daddy at the time, so it was a big thing. It had the East Coast West Coast rivalry beef going on at the time, so it was a major thing that happened. So that would be a massive plot, bit in the movie as well.
Yeah.
The death of Biggie. Then sort of the Blueprint is his 3 albums that 1, 2, and 3 are his biggest. Like they're the big ones, like the Blueprint series. It was released in 2001, and this is another crazy thing as well. It was released hours before September the 11th, the attacks in New York City. So it's a guy from Brooklyn who's blown up, and then this was released hours before, and a couple of deadly songs. Izzo and Heart of the City on it. Maybe Blueprint may be my favorite album. But yeah, sort of a very big culturally, obviously, because it happened around the time. It literally happened hours before the September the 11th. In a city, obviously, where he was raised in that. Kanye produced 4 songs in this, so this is how Kanye got his start in the game. Now,
It was what do you call it? N-Word in Paris? Was that?
No, this is way later, lad. But this is how
Kanye was in that.
Kanye got his start with Biggie. Kanye was a producer, like was in making beats and stuff. Jay-Z's got a client list of people that he's worked with and set up that's absolutely insane. Like, but this is how Kanye got his start. And I know me and you, Dave, we went to see Kanye when we were younger, when he wasn't completely insane. And so we went and see, was the Glow in the Dark tour.
It was very good, actually.
Kanye's early stuff, like some of the stuff that he did with his voice, he got vocals to do the sounds of guitars and things and all this sort of. But he started by making beats for Jay-Z.
Beats by Dre, you mean?
Beats by Dre, aye. But this was his breakthrough, and in and around this time was maybe the biggest. Another one that I definitely want to point on here in the biopic is his beef with Nas. Nas was like an underground rapper. Not an underground rapper, it's not the best way to say it. Nas was a big recording artist too, but Nas was like a lot of people at this time had said maybe like Jay-Z had sold out and stuff like that. You know, all the stuff that happens when you're in your 3rd or 4th album. That's another thing too. Jay-Z's recorded an album every year from 1986 to 2003, so there was an album out every single year, which is pretty damn good going.
Crazy, like.
Crazy production.
Crazy production. But he had a feud with Nas, which lasted to 2006. They didn't get on at all. Nas was the kind of guy that never really made it big and stayed true to his roots, and loads of people loved him. Whereas Jay was now doing crazy things, making millions and millions of dollars, but
almost selling out.
It was the whole just taking 2 sides of an argument sort of thing. Jay then took over as the CEO of Def Jam in 2004. So he retired at the end of 2003. He retired, didn't actually. Yeah. But he retired from music in 2003, and he took over Def Jam Records. And then he did the most gangster move that could be done. He made up with Nas and then signed him. So it was the most gangster shit ever. The guy that you didn't get on with for 4 years and absolutely hated him, you give him his big record deal, and I think paid him something like $3 million or something. So this is a theme. There's been quite a few people had shots at Jay at times, but he always.
That's when good business. Like,
he knows business. He was very intelligent too. A lot of some of the stories with the rappers and stuff, their come ups or struggles because they kind of get involved in a life that's a wee bit rough and all, and then they don't do well in school and stuff. But Jay was quite smart apparently, and I know it's probably a knock on effect if you're not doing too well in school, you get into that sort of life, and then it's difficult. But Jay was quite intelligent. What have we got next? Yeah, he came back after that. And he came out with Kingdom Come and American Gangster, which were 2 good albums also. And then he had the Blueprint 3, which sort of rounded out the trilogy for that sets of albums. He had a wee Noel and him had a wee bust up.
I think I mind this.
Yeah, Noel had a wee dig because he was set to headline Glastonbury in 2008. And Noel was like, what the hell is he doing headlining Glastonbury? It's not that type of festivals sort of thing. And Jay came out to Wonderwall.
Oh, such a move.
Jay's a cool guy. Like, he's married to Beyonce.
He is.
I was waiting for that to come in. Gotta acknowledge that. How the hell did he get her?
Jay's one of the coolest people on the planet. He is actually so cool. Like, and
so much money. More money than God helps.
That helps also. He set up Rock Nation, which was a big thing for him in 2009. And then again, I've written down here about owning the stake in it was the New Jersey Nets at the time, and then he basically helped them move to Brooklyn because he wanted to set up there. He had to sell his he had to sell his stake in the Nets because he then set up Rock Nation Sports, which is where it would be a conflict of interest if he was an agent. And then he had an ownership in the team.
Franchise.
So we got them to Brooklyn.
It's not a conflict of interest in football. There's George Mendes.
George Mendes and
all
Wolves,
over Wolves.
Yeah. So he's became a billionaire. He's recently we've seen he's been working with the NFL, sort of helping their public image and helping sort of garner relations with like black athletes and things like that. There, we've seen him. Apparently, he was a key figure in getting Colin Kaepernick that workout there recently. That Colin Kaepernick
he was responsible for the.
Apparently, Jay-Z had a big, pull on that. Like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought it was just the NFL itself.
He came on board before it. He came on board with Goodell.
I did know that he was very behind Kaepernick. In the whole struggle he's been having.
I think that he helped push that workout.
It's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
He's became a billionaire. He's the first rapper to become a billionaire. He's just a complete mogul now at this stage in his life. He's 50.
He went from drug dealer and selling CDs out of the back of his car to a billionaire.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's other rappers that people say are better. Some of them that haven't done too well. There's like underground rappers and things like that. But Jay's the biggest. There's no arguing.
I like Jay-Z. He wouldn't be my favourite, but I like him.
A lot of the bigger rappers.
I like a lot of his songs.
Yeah.
A lot of them sort of have,
he gets a lot of
people I like more in them.
He gets a lot of appreciation from rappers. Is where he gets a lot of his. A lot of people still follow him in that, but a lot of rappers really, really appreciate his lyricism, his flow, his style.
Yeah.
Kanye's went completely off the rails, but that man could produce a beat like nobody else.
This is going back a wee bit, but I even remember when he linked up with Linkin Park.
Yeah,
that was really cool. I enjoyed that.
We were talking about that at the very start of the podcast, about that rock rap crossover. But the link up with Linkin Park and stuff as well. He's worked with.
He's always seems to have his finger in the pulse of what's going on and real good business sense and
he dabbles in
everything. He's worked with J. Cole. He put him on an album early on. Got J. Cole.
J. Cole was order.
Rihanna, Beyonce, Kanye, Eminem. He's worked with.
We've been to see J. Cole.
We've been to see J. Cole. He's a philanthropist. He's done a lot of work in the community, giving back. Obviously, he got the Nets to Brooklyn, which regenerated the area, pumped a lot of money in. He's given away a pile of money. He's been involved in politics. He's involved in absolutely everything. And I don't know where you could start and end with this movie. I think maybe
obviously start with sort of his upbringing.
And the sort of come up and all that there, because it's more interesting. I think maybe sort of you could maybe kill it at his first retirement thereabouts or something, and then just maybe do like an outro of all the things that he's done.
Just like him at the height of his power.
Yeah, the Nas beef and then signing him would be a nice wee way to finish it out. Like, it just shows what Jay-Z's all about. Like, he gave the guy that he couldn't stand. They had back and forths all the time for about 4 years.
But if the guy's got talent, he's going to make you money. Sign him up.
Sign him like a $3 million contract. So the man who had never really got really big deals or anything, then got.
Yeah, it's poetic.
It's gangster shit. But Reasonable Doubt, 1986. My Lifetime series, 87, 88, 89. The Dynasty, 2000, The Blueprint. In 2001, The Blueprint 2 in 02, and then the Black Album, which got a lot of criticism, but I quite like the Black Album. It's very good. He came back with Kingdom Come, An American Gangster. He finished out the Blueprint in 09, and then it's Magna Carta. What's the name of it? I can't remember. It was in 2013, and he had another one in 17. So he's still producing music, still putting people on. He has, his Rock Nation Sports, his Rock Nation music industry. He's an absolute machine. So
just a business mogul.
Yeah, there's been Eminem's been done, 50 Cent's been done. And I thought that Jay-Z would be the biggest rapper of all time.
That's more of a biopic on a musician mixed with almost like a Steve Jobs type movie.
That's crazy, lad. He's an absolute.
What do you call that one for Facebook? The Social Network.
Social Network. He's just an everything.
Always a business biopic
towards the end.
Mixed with a music biopic.
Yeah, yours just kind of went down the politics route as I say, whereas Jay making an absolute download of money.
Well, you couldn't win the Rage Against the Machines and just cover their music, like you'd be missing out.
That was good, fellas. We went in around 20. It's going to be a wee bit longer, I suppose, with all four of us doing pitches together. It's not too often we're going to have all four in the room, but for some things like this, some of the nerd stuff, we're definitely all four here, and especially if you're pitching movies, it's going to be a wee bit longer. But I
hope everybody enjoyed it.
I hope everybody enjoyed it. We'll try to get a wee bit of music in there. It's been a weird 24 hours, and we've thoroughly enjoyed it. That we'll probably be over like 200 downloads when we finish this now, which is batshit insane. So
thank you very much for your support, and
yeah,
keep
to
the
all the
support
people
up.
that shared it and stuff too,
Yeah.
and
Keep your likes, your comments, your subscribes up, and
we're having a good laugh doing it. So
Yeah.
we're enjoying doing it, and if
we're
there's
enjoying
views-
doing it, and if you're enjoying listening to it, then
Fine.
it's good for
We're doing
everybody.
alright.
Give
We'll
us
keep
some
them
ideas.
coming.
Give us some ideas on what you want us to maybe chat about, or ideas for a show or something. Or
Yeah, leave us comments, all that.
Yeah,
Give
we
us
seem
some
to,
comments.
we've done a couple of these here now, sort of pitching movies, although we haven't, the Star Wars one hasn't come out yet, but
It might be dead. We
It
may
might
have to
be.
re-record that, but
Yeah,
that was
but,
our first recorded podcast.
if there's any other sort of
Mhm.
things you'd like us to sort of work at, like, sort of writing a script for, or, pitching an idea for, let us know, because it's a fun one to do, and
Yeah.
if you have as much fun listening to it as we do
making it.
researching it, then
We're
Let
all
us know.
having slight mental breakdowns about uploading it and getting it all sorted and
Ah.
chopped up and stuff like that there. But I mean, other than that, it's been pretty damn enjoyable. But
Pretty
that's
good.
us, boys. We'll make it out of here.
Right.
Thanks very much for listening.
See
and,
you all later.
goodbye, everyone.
goodbye.
Good luck.
Cheers. Thank you.